Welcome to Study Like a Scientist, HSC questions. And remember, when you've got an HSC question in front of you, make sure you read it properly. So highlight the key verbs, the verbs, and then make sure you're understanding the science that's going on and the purpose of the question. Notice any plurals. You might have to do two things, not one thing, and the number of marks you're trying to attain. And that will help you in your response to use the right kind of scientific vocabulary. Plan how long it needs to be, or maybe if you're going to answer as a flowchart or a table. If there's a stimulus, actually engage with it, read it, circle things, do averages, and then be logical and review your response. Check that you've written what you intended to write. Now this question's from 2023, it's question 29, and it's in module 8. So let's have a look at it. It says that organisms use various mechanisms to maintain their internal environments. That's homeostasis within tolerance limits. So we allow a little bit of wiggle room, but essentially we don't want things to go away from balance. So the question says outline. So we don't need to go into massive detail. And it's outline a physiological adaptation. Let's write that in a different colour. So physiological adaptation, not behavioural, not structural, we want physiological. In endotherms, so warm-blooded creatures. So this is animals, to assist in maintaining their internal environment. And it's a good question, gives you lots of scope, so you can do pretty much what you like and what you can remember. So let's have a look at the marking criteria. Not very helpful, so we're just looking for sketching in general terms. So let's have a read of this student's response. Have a look at the marking criteria and see if you think they have attained 1 or 2 marks. So pause it and have a look. Now when I read this response, the thing that screams to me is a lack of scientific vocabulary. So they say a lot, they don't say anything that's wrong, but they really have not used words like vasodilation. So it would be great to see a higher level of scientific vocabulary. So I think they probably only scored 1. Let's have a look at part B of this question. This time we have to explain 2 adaptations. So be aware that this is a plural question and it is in plants. So don't start talking about urine. We are in plants, maintaining a water balance. Okay, so we want 2 adaptations, and an explain should have cause, link, effect. So you probably want to talk about structures and the why that works in order to get your 4 marks. You do that twice. So let's have a look at the marking criteria. Yes. That's exactly what they're looking for. If you do it for 2, you get 4 marks for each. If you manage to do it for only 1, you're going to be dropping down the marking criteria. So let's see how this student has done. So have a read of their response and pause it, look back at the marking criteria and give them a mark out of 4. What I think is quite interesting about this response is that it is very scientific, given that they didn't write anything particularly scientific earlier on. They're talking about cam plants, which is a special adaptation, especially for increasing water retention, and it's a really good response. Unfortunately, it is only 1 response. 1/2 of the question's response. So they've only talked about 1 adaptation, not 2. So they've run out of room, they've written lots, but they've probably done more than they needed to do for that first one. They needed to write a response which included another adaptation. So when you are writing your response for this question, make sure that you remember those plurals and write about 2 things. Give it a go.